send you.
Right.
I can send you a YouTube video.
Yeah, do that,
Yeah.
VJ.
I will-
Record it and send me the. Yeah, yeah,
Already recording now. It's recording.
yeah. Because that, see, the thing is, then I can concentrate on the meeting and not have to worry about writing stuff down. You know.
Good. Yeah. Just
Yeah, send me the YouTube thing, VJ, and I'll do it. Okay.
I will do that. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Lovely.
I think let's start the meeting.
Yeah.
Welcome to the February or spring, whatever you want to call it, meeting. All of you. And
how can I I've got a big block in the middle of my screen saying this meeting is being recorded.
Let's just go continue.
Whenever it says got it, just click on the got it.
Yeah.
And it'll go away.
Have you, Brian?
Yes, it's okay now.
No.
Okay now.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. The first item is welcome and apologies, and there are 8 people at the moment, 2 to 4 to 6 to 8, and 2 apologies, Anthony and Jobad. Next item is agenda for the 18th of November committee meeting. So I will give
the minutes.
is
The minutes.
the minutes of the committee meeting 18th of November. So I will give 2 or 3 minutes for people to read. And first the corrections and then matters arise. Any corrections?
No corrections, Chair, but under 3 financial update,
Oh, yeah.
VM said next EC should discuss fundraising.
Oh, yes.
That isn't on today's agenda, which is very full. So could we put that onto the next agenda?
All right. Okay, let's make a note of that. Put fundraising on next agenda. Okay, I made a note of that.
Financial update.
Financial update.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
does fundraising come into the financial update?
Well, we'll put a separate agenda for next meeting,
Yes.
Right.
which will be fundraising. Any other corrections or matters?
I've got, VJ, I've got a small correction. The spelling of Alan Ware's name in the minutes is ALYN.
Okay, what number is it?
I'm just trying to find it.
Yeah, I found
Yes,
it.
4E.
Yeah, 4E.
ALYN. It's a Welsh name, although he's from New Zealand.
Yeah.
Welsh spelling.
Yes. Okay, I got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any others? So if it is with the permission of the committee, can we see the minutes have been approved?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, VJ.
Okay. Make them approved, please. Now, the next item on the agenda is future events. The events attended by committee members from
No,
November to February.
No, surely not. Financial update, Vijay.
Oh, sorry.
Financial
Financial update is £16,612.30 in the bank.
Now, I just raised the question that I did raise last time,
Oh, yeah.
and that is that the only money we have? Do we not
That is
have
the
some
only
separate-
money. That is the only money. I checked it with the accountant. Yeah.
So we have no money now on
Except this 16,604. So we
so no
need
separate
to,
money.
we need to fundraise.
What I'm saying is there no separate money on deposit,
No,
which we used to have?
no, not at all.
I see. Ah,
Okay. I'll go to number 4, events and conferences attended by committee members, November to February 2022.
Right, I'll start.
I have two to report.
Right, I've got some to report as well.
Okay. Let me finish mine and then
Okay, go ahead, Vijay.
from others. Number 1, I went to Oxford to give a lecture organized by Christian Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, and it was on building bridges in the shadow of Afghanistan. We had 4 speakers. I spoke on Hinduism. There was a Muslim scholar who spoke about Muslim faith, a Buddhist scholar, and a Christian of the Christian faith. Well-attended meeting, about 50 people. I met some very old peace activists, and we sold some books. Lilias was there. She was minding the stall. She came, and Shanti was there. So, and it was a good meeting, and we had a lot of discussion, and the report is in the next newsletter. The next one is the GAMIP, Global Alliance of Ministries and Infrastructure for Peace, and UFP, our own United for Peace joint event on 26th of January. It was also a well-attended meeting, 36 people from 12 countries, Germany, Nigeria, Cameroon, USA, Canada, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, all these countries, Sweden, all these countries were there. It was an amazing experience because after that, I stopped getting emails telling me how good the event was. And Bernie was kind enough to make a report from the recording, which was sent to all the 36 people recording. And the next meeting, I will send you the Zoom link, is 3rd of March, and it will be a bit more focused meeting, how to go ahead and establish ministries of peace in different countries. And I'll send you the agenda and everything. Okay, now the floor is open to members, whoever have attended any meeting.
so
Right, I'd
Can
like
I
to-
ask one quick question, please?
Yeah. go on.
Vijay, what was the date of the Oxford lecture? Can you remember?
Yeah, it was November 2020.
We don't know the exact date. Okay.
Vijay, could
20th
you send
of-
the,
20th
the
of
current
November.
magazine.
It is in the,
it's in the current,
yeah. It is, Brian
It's
is saying, the
it's in
report
the
is in
current
the
magazine.
newsletter.
Aha, thank you. Okay, I've got it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to tell you what I attended.
Go on.
On Friday, the 7th of January, I attended a webinar by No First Use. And in fact, Frank was there as well. But he'll probably tell you that when it's his turn. Then on the 20th of January, Thursday, the 20th of January, I attended a Stop the War Coalition Zoom meeting which the subjects of which was no knighthood for Tony Blair. Then on the Wednesday, the 26th of January, I attended the Gamut meeting, which VJ's just told you about. Then on Monday, the 31st of January, I attended a meeting with VJ and Joe Berry, the purpose of which was to explain to VJ how you can use Zoom more effectively. And that brings us up to date to this meeting where I'm on now. By the way, this evening, I'm going to another Stop the War Zoom meeting about Ukraine. That's at 6:30. I've got a link for that, which if anybody wants it, I'll put it in the chat for you. That's 6:30 this evening. And that's it. That's me done.
Okay, thanks. And remember, you record them when you make them.
Yeah.
Okay, and anyone else?
Yes, I've got the usual. First of all, I can't actually remember what I did in November and December, and I can't put my hand on my last year's diary to check, but I believe I did have one or two at that time. However, in the new year, yes, Bernie is right. There was the meeting on the 7th of January about the letter advocating no first use to the leaders at the NPT review conference when it does finally take place. And I made a contribution to that. I have, as I've previously reported, I am skeptical about the no first use campaign unless it is not only followed up with other matters, but intrinsically linked with practical issues rather than just words on paper. So I had submitted a paper on that, which has not been circulated by the organizers, and I made a contribution during the meeting itself. Then there's a bit of a gap, but then I've attended the usual no Trident replacement meeting on the 25th of January. The GAMP meeting, I was one of the attendees there. And then just last night, there was a CND meeting on the upcoming first States Party meeting for the TPNW, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, in which the main speaker was an Austrian minister, Alexander something, who was one of the prime organizers and campaigners for the original establishment, creation of the TPNW back in 2017, I think it was, which of course I attended part of that conference in New York, and he was very, very good. The first States Party meeting, since it became a law, established in law just over a year ago, is taking now. It's been postponed a couple of times, but is now expected to take place in either June or July. Final date still to be settled, and I am wondering if I can manage to go. There will be a civil society input to it, and I'm wondering if I can manage to go to that. My physical state is somewhat questionable, and the question of COVID and everything will still be going on, so I'm not at all sure. But I would very much like to take part in it if it is possible.
Where will it be, Frank?
In Vienna.
I could drive you over there.
Well, I don't
You
know
could lie
about that.
down. You could lie down in the back of the van all the way.
Oh yes, I have to think very seriously about that. I think I did also one or two other things which I haven't got detailed records of, but I've been. I'm also active, of course, in local issues which don't concern this committee, the Harlow Civic Society and the Harlow Co-op Party and the Harlow Labour Party, but. So I'm keeping my hand in various things.
Frank, that meeting in Vienna, could you just repeat what it is, the organisation and what its name
It is the first States Party conference of the. Sorry, I'll start again. It is the first conference of the states parties to the Treaty on on Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons.
Thank you.
That is the one which is going to fill in all the details of what they actually need to do since it came into force officially in January of last year.
Okay.
Thank you, Frank.
Okay, anyone else attended, Lilias or Ravi?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lilias.
Okay. I went to a civic society meeting in Littlehampton about rewilding, which is really interesting because they're talking about building corridors of wild land so that the animals can actually travel, because with all these new roads that they're putting in, the animals can't cross the roads. So they've either got to build what are called natural bridges across the road so the animals can get across the road, which are incredibly expensive, or they've got to not build the roads. So that was one thing. I am going to a Zoom meeting of the annual general meeting of the Littlehampton Civic Bonfire Night tomorrow, I think it is, which will be my first time as a member of the Littlehampton Bonfire Society. We've been having lots of meetings of the Littlehampton and District Guild of Cooperators for Peace and the Common Good. And I suggested at the last meeting that I call my house a ministry for peace. I don't have to have a government backing to do that, and I can just call my house a ministry for peace, and then we will have a ministry for peace in Littlehampton. It was suggested by another member of the committee that we talk about that in Littlehampton so that anybody can call their house a ministry for peace, and we could have several ministries for peace in Littlehampton. And eventually, in 10 years' time, Littlehampton will become the peace center of the world. So I just thought I'd tell you that.
Good. Okay, Brian or Ravi, anything?
The only meeting I attended was a meeting by the Ministry of Justice, which was a stakeholder event, and it was to review evidence that will be submitted to the forthcoming Universal Periodic Review of the United Kingdom. So the United Kingdom, like most countries, has a UPR review every 4 years to look at its own human rights and what it's doing, not only abroad, but within the UK as well. And it's an opportunity for stakeholders to be involved with that. which was quite an interesting process. Outside of that, I attend local meetings. I had one here in Birmingham with the Birmingham Cuban Solidarity Society, which focuses on the Cuban Five and things that are affecting Cuba. And I can circulate the minutes of that with to yourself, Vijay. But that's all for me.
Can I ask you a quick question, Ravi,
Yeah, of course.
about the meeting for the Ministry of Justice?
Mhm.
Do we have a Ministry of Justice in this country?
Yes, of course.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Yes, we do. Okay.
Yes.
And the meeting that you had was about their review of human rights within the Ministry of Justice. Is that right?
No, it's a universal periodic review of the United Kingdom. So it's often hosted by the United Nations. And so they do a quarterly, every 4 years, a review of countries to look at their human rights abuses, not only within the country or what they're doing outside of the country. And so it comes back every 4 to so years. And so having engaged with them in the past, being to Geneva, I was invited to attend a stakeholder event to look at some of the issues affecting minority groups here in the UK, such as the traveller community and a whole range of others.
Thank you.
Lovely.
I can
Thank
send you the
very
links
much.
if you like.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Brian, anything attended?
Not going out at the moment, actually, no. Not at the moment, no. Not
No.
at the moment, no.
No, okay. All right, let's move on to the future meetings. Now, as you are aware, we are having a physical meeting on April the 2nd, AGM and Spring Conference at the, Lilius is showing the flyer. At the Leslie Shepherd,
I don't know.
and the theme is climate change, militarization, and world peace. So at the moment, it's Lord Meghanand Desai and myself, two confirmed speakers. I have sent an email to Asad Rahman of War on Want, Fiona Harvey of the environmental correspondent of the Observer, and Stuart Parkinson. So I'm waiting to hear from them. And then if not, then we will looking for more speakers. And now all depends on how much people can come in, and from there we'll take up and decide the rest of the events in the year. If you get a good crowd, say 50 or 75 people, then that will be encouragement. And we will have more physical events, like next one can be in the parliament. So we will see how it goes, and I'll keep you updated on this event.
One comment, Vijay. Just a comment. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
I do recall that about 4 or 5 years ago, the Ministry of Defense published a report on issues facing the military as a result of climate change. No, security issues arising from climate change. And this report, I recall, particularly focused on the security issues arising from major refugee flows and from the security issues rising from natural disasters. I don't know if this report is still available. I remember at the time it caused quite a stir. And I wondered if we could try and find out if it's still available.
Yeah, okay.
It was MOD report.
MOD report on?
But it was on the security issues in relation to climate change.
Security issues relating to climate change. Okay, I'll try to find out.
Good.
Okay. Okay, I'll keep you updated about this in the next event. Yes, Lilius?
I'm wondering whether we can ask for a donation. I mean, you've put on the leaflet, this is a free public event and donations welcome. I'm wondering whether we could say suggest a donation of £5 or something to
Yes.
see.
You see, what happened is that a long time ago, we decided all our public events will be free, but we will have donations. And secondly, because we haven't got a membership secretary, there is no account of people send donations, but we have got no record of our actual members. So,
Yeah.
so we can either we do get checks, like I'm sending the newsletter now. I'll be getting some checks, but no way. Maybe sometimes 200, 300, 400 pounds, sometimes a bit more, sometimes little less, things like that. But it doesn't cover the cost of even the newsletter. Never mind, never mind being a help to the United for Peace. So we are just
Yeah.
slowly going through our funds. That's why it's important that we raise more funds and we put it on the agenda next.
Okay. Yeah.
I think you should, we used to have sometimes in the past, we had a collection at the event.
Yeah, that
I think we should go back to doing that.
I think that's a good idea. We should have some collection.
Collection at the event, yes.
I remember in the old times, we used to have 2 buckets.
Yes, yes.
And we
And
used to stand on 2 gates wherever people left were going
That's right.
going out, and we used to make a bit of noise so people can hear the change in the bucket. and they used to put the change in, and some people used to put the notes.
That's right, yes. Very good. Let's go back to that.
All right.
That
All
sounds
right.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, that of course depends on there being in-person meetings rather than Zoom.
Yes,
It's a
exactly.
bit difficult to have a bucket on a Zoom meeting.
You're right, Frank. Yeah. So beside that, we have a date, maybe May, June, September, for the UN symposium. And the theme the committee discussed and decided was a dangerous arms race threatens humanity. Can UN civil and civil society prevent a major war? It's a massive theme, and with Ukraine issue right in the front of our eyes, that it could be, it's a very attractive, could be a very attractive event. But all depends on what gathering we can get at April event, the AGM and that. From there, we will decide whether this will be a physical event. Then I can get in touch with a member of parliament or a lord here to get a room in the parliament. And if we haven't got enough gathering in April AGM and spring conference, then all our rest of the events throughout the year will be online events, because if we see that people have decided they don't want to come in, we cannot have actual meetings. As an example, Stop the War, Movement for Abolition of War, CND, they're all doing online moves. I think we may be the first peace organization to do an actual meeting. And we will just see the temperature, that what happens. I mean, that's all I can say. Okay, Ravi?
Thanks for that, VJ. I totally understand what you're saying. I mean, with the restricting of the pandemic and going back to normal, you know, it may be a chance to go back to the way things were. However, I think online meetings are going to continue actually, because it's proven to be so much more efficient to be able to join a meeting from the comforts of your own home, cost effective as well. I remember when I used to do community meetings, it would cost £60 for an hour, and traveling into meetings. So I think the future world is going to be a mix of both of these, physical and online, because some people may not want to travel, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours, pay for transport to attend a meeting, which they could easily join through their phone as well. So I think the future world is going to be a mix of the two, and it will make it possible for people to, because what you don't want to do is to turn people away by saying we're going to have physical meetings, and then they decide, oh, you know, do I have to go to London, and it's going to be 2 hours there, 2 hours back, and it's going to cost me, you know, £50 train tickets. Those are like barriers, you know, that put people off. So I think the future that we're going to be looking ahead now is going to be a mix of both virtual and physical meetings.
Yeah, I agree.
Now that's a good, sorry. Are our meetings are our physical meetings also going to be Zoom meetings at the same time, VJ? That's a good point.
I have got no plans to do an online meeting on 2nd of April because I'm trying to organize AGM, speakers, conference, and even not only that, I'm trying to get people to come in. That is a big job in itself. It takes me a month or month and a half to write to people, send them email invitations before they can join in. So I'm doing 5 or 6 tasks. But if anybody is happy to come in and do online, I've got no objection. Frank?
Yes, I agree with Ravi. There are pros and cons of both online and in-person meetings, and ideally a mixture of the two. But I am personally still very much concerned about the removal of all the laws that the government is putting forward at the moment. I think that the risks from COVID, and particularly the possibility of new variants and so on, the whole issue of spread of viruses, it has not been, although it's amazing what has been done in that respect, but nevertheless, there are still really major problems before we can talk about getting back to so-called normal. And I'm very skeptical about the government's approach. And personally, I will still continue to wear a mask in most circumstances and limit my activities. I do actually have local meetings. I like on Tuesday, we had a local co-op party branch meeting, a very small meeting in a large room with a fair amount of social distancing, and that was acceptable just about. But I'm not happy about it much more than that. So hybrid meetings are, again, more difficult to organize than either in person or pure Zoom. So we have to make compromises always and decide on the balance of various aspects, pros and cons, whatever we do.
No, I would agree with Frank, but one thing I would say that I missed physical meetings, meeting people, networking with them, and talking about their families and whatnot. I do miss physical meetings, and that is why I thought, let's make it a try and see what happens.
Oh, yes, I completely agree with that. there's no doubt about it. Contributions via the chat on a Zoom meeting are not a real substitute for making a spontaneous contribution in an face-to-face meeting. I do undoubtedly miss the face-to-face meetings, but nevertheless, being realistic, my age and my state of health, I have to be very careful. And of course, that is true of the community as a whole, not just me personally.
Yeah, fine. No, I agree that Zoom meetings will continue, but both the things will continue, as Ravi was saying. Physical meetings but going back last year, which we are going to discuss in a minute, we were at the Labour Party conference, we were at the Green Party conference, and people were moving around and everything was, I wouldn't say normal, but everything was fine. People were coming to our stall, discussing peace issues, everything, and same with the Green Party conference.
Well, yes, of course, I attended the Labour Party meeting, Labour Party conference, but I considered it was a significant risk in doing so, and although I agreed to the risk because I thought it was important to be there, but it was a risk, and it is a risk.
Okay, let's move on to this year's Labour Party conference. I believe, Frank, is in September?
Yes, and I have just a little earlier today circulated a brief note about it. I'm sorry it's so late. I was hoping to get it in early enough for people to have a look at it before the meeting. I am still in two minds about going to Liverpool, and as I've explained in the note that I've circulated, there are we have significant problems. First of all, on the finance. We've already mentioned the fact that we only have £16,000 in the bank, and the Labour Action for Peace has even less. I don't know exactly what it has, but very, very little. It would not be able to make a big contribution. In all the years, I was trying to do a summary of the costs over a number of years, and as I say in the memo, I found it a bit. There are complications in each year which need to be sorted out in order to give an overall picture. But I'm giving an overall figure of the cost of attending at least 2,500, and over the years we have managed to break even, more than break even, because we have had contributions from other groups on some occasions, like Abolition 2000 one year and CAT another year. Small donation from a union once, but also we had what I call a bonanza, which I don't want to go into details where it actually came from and how, but nevertheless, it was a significant contribution which has been made it possible to break even over the years. And we are not in the position that bonanza is pretty well used up. The two, I'm not anticipating getting any money from anywhere else. this year. So we really need to think very, very carefully about it. And then there are logistical questions relating to Liverpool itself. It's long distance away, and that in itself increases costs in various ways. It's more difficult to get to it. The venue I don't like very much. It has two separate buildings, in one of which is the main conference, and most of the exhibition is in the other building. That separation makes it much less useful. There is not so much direct contact with delegates because they have to come specifically to visit the exhibition rather than passing by on the way to and from the conference and so on. So then again, there's a question of accommodation. Last time we were there, I stayed with my niece, but she has now moved, so I don't have personal accommodation. And I always prefer to stay with friends. The advantages of having a home base in connection with the organization of going up early in order to set up the stand and being able to have the resources of a domestic base when things come up are quite significant as compared with staying in a hotel, which of course again adds to the cost. So I've put these points in the memo for people to think about.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, I note I was hoping that Lucy would be on this. She has been invited to join
Yeah.
in this EC meeting, and I'm disappointed she hasn't,
Yeah.
because she was offering to take a lot of the work off me.
Yeah.
But I don't. We haven't pursued that to the extent of exactly what she can contribute and what I still would need to do.
Okay, Frank, thanks. Thank you very much. I just a couple of suggestions before I give floor to Ravi. Is that would you consider writing to 2 or 3 different trade unions and say that, look, we are like all other peace organizations, we are finding a financial squeeze, and could they just contribute £500? The total is £2,500. So they might consider a small amount to pay.
Well, I can certainly try that, but I have done it in the past on a number of occasions. And at one time we did have World Disarmament Campaign, WDC, and Labour Action for Peace both had union affiliated organizations affiliated, and we could get money then, but since those affiliations have lapsed, the only contribution that I have had from a number of attempts has been £50 1 year from TSSA, Transport Salaries Staffs Association.
Okay.
So I can certainly try, but I don't
Okay.
offer much hope.
Okay. How about, and try co-op as well.
Sorry?
Try cooperative party as well. But just try. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me give the floor to Ravi. Ravi.
Thank you, Vijay. How can I put this? Well, there's no other way. If you look at all the years you've attended the party political conferences, and I mean, looking at it through the eyes of a newcomer, you might think, okay, what are the outputs we're going to gain from, spending all this money to attend a conference? We may attract new members who want to join us and volunteer from us. We could influence some of the laws around peace, or lobbying to access, the peace agenda so that politicians can be influenced. and potentially, I don't know, we can get a position in the House of Lords, or you know, an opportunity for networking with MPs. I mean, has it actually resulted in anything? Because I used to do a lot of work with politicians in the past, and I know they're quick to take your support and any funding you may want to give them, but they quickly forget your causes. And I was just thinking of, you know, outside the box, what does it actually result? Okay, you may have thousands, tens of thousands of people who are aware of Uniting for Peace, and they may have joined and contributed, but has it resulted in a tangible, you know, change to legislation or some sort of law that's been passed that we've been able to influence directly? Otherwise, you may want to look at the cost benefit analysis of spending all that money and attending, because nowadays you might be able to influence politics and politicians on a social media maybe in a more effective way. That was my only thought coming through my head. I wasn't sure how to kind of close that.
That is exactly the point that I have addressed in my memo, which you can read in a little more detail. My very first point is that I have always made is that simply having the word peace prominently displayed at the Labour Party conference, and recognizing that the Labour Party, with all its faults and all the problems it has, and its various up and down situations, but more down than up, it is still the alternative government, and it is the place where, if anything, any practical actions are to be taken, they're going to be taken by a Labour government. So I've always argued that in itself is enough to warrant it. But I am taking the point that you have made, and may have exactly that point myself, that is it really true that is enough to warrant the expenditure?
Okay, Lilius.
Well, as an attendee for the very first time at the Labour Party conference in Brighton, I have to say that when we were there was a big thing going on about AUKUS, which was the Australian-American Alliance for the building nuclear-powered submarines for, can't remember which country it was now. Anyways, we were doing questionnaires about this from our stall, and whilst we were there was a vote by the party in conference over this issue, and it was voted that that Labour Party did not support that. Although, whilst we were asking people to sign that petition in the exhibition hall, some people were saying that they'd been whipped and they were not allowed to sign that. But actually, when it went through conference, it passed. So I think that we did exert some influence over that, because we were going around talking to people a lot. I was anyways. And I think that we may have influenced them to vote that. We have no proof of that, obviously, but I would like to think that, yes, we were there, we did do something.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to make a wider point. The day I spent at the Labour Party, a couple of days at the Green Party, I at least went through a few hundred people, talked to them, questioned them about military expenditure, about the previous wars and what we should do about peace, and how many countries have got ministries of peace. So because we do peace education, which is a big part of the peace organization. We try to spread culture of peace, which is a big part of peace movement. We try to spread non-violence, which is a big part of the peace movement, and to stop war. But that is an excellent platform to getting together and tell people about the real world. So in a way, I don't think money is not well spent. And also the point which Frank made, And also, over the years, we made some good acquaintances with former ministers, members of parliament, like Fabian Hamilton has nearly become a friend of Uniting for Peace. So I have, after Labour Party conference, I've actually met him a couple of times in the parliament, because we made an appointment to see each other, and he wanted to discuss a few things with me, and I wanted to clarify a few things. So there is mileage out of it, but it all depends to only one thing: finance. At the end of the day, if we are able to raise it, look, Frank, this is we have been, United for Peace have been trying to give £1,200 each year, as far as I'm aware. But we can settle for a smaller amount, maybe 800,000, 500, whatever the committee thinks. And then you try to raise the rest.
Yes, but
how does the committee feel?
Yeah, I'd be happy to try and raise money anyway, see if we can do it, Frank. I don't know. If we can get enough money to pay for it, then we do it.
well,
If we can't
yes,
get enough money to pay
but
for it, then we don't do
but
it.
that's a very big if, and we have to commit the right at the beginning. We have to commit definitely to the total of 1,920 basic cost of the stand, plus another 56 for public liability insurance. That is the absolute basic minimum before we can even think about attending, and that has to be guaranteed at a fairly early date. So while theoretically it ought to be possible to raise money from various places, I have tried over the many years and not been terribly successful. I have written what I like to think are very eloquent pleas for support from trade unions, and still had no response from most of them. So you know, I love going to the Labour Party conference. I have been I have sometimes been a delegate for my local Labour Party, 3 times, I think. And I have been as a visitor in other years. I've been a member of the Labour Party all my life, and for many years I wasn't able to go to conference because I was first of all, while I was in industry, I tended to go to my trade union annual conference, and I couldn't get leave to go to the Labour Party as well. And then when I became a teacher, of course, that was impossible. You can't put pupils in a pending box while you were swan off to a meeting in September. So only after I retired from teaching have I been able to go regularly. But I do very much like to go, and in fact it's possible that even if we weren't exhibiting, I might go as a visitor on 2 or 3 days this year. But I say personally I would undoubtedly want to go, whatever. But I'm being realistic, and the points that Ravi has made and I've supported are very valid ones to make us think very, very carefully about it.
Okay.
Okay, well, can I say something else quickly? That we do have, how much is it? Some money in the bank, okay, and 16,000. So if we spend more or less 2,000 on going to conference, that leaves us with 14,000. What is that money for that's in the bank? Are we just going to sit on it, or are we going to spend it on something that we want to do.
No, no,
Can we just say-
as I said earlier,
No.
it all depends on the committee. I'm happy to say that much amount we will, but that doesn't give the full amount of what Frank is saying. So we might even offer 800, 1,000 pounds, which is less than our 1,200 pounds. But that still doesn't cover the Labour Party fund, unless.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why don't we just pay what it costs
No.
for the stall? Obviously, everybody's going to have to pay for themselves to go. Nobody's going to ask for any more money. We know that that's the case. If anybody wants to go, they have to pay for themselves to go. Uniting for Peace just pays for the stall.
Okay.
Because then Labour Action for Peace
okay,
can go as well, because
I
they don't
got
have
your-
any money, do they, Frank?
Okay.
Yes, yes, although as
So
I
this
said,
year we have to be generous because Labour Action for Peace is bust. Okay, I was so impressed that you have a Labour Action for Peace. We don't have a Green Party Action for Peace. I don't know if the Conservative Party have a Conservative Action for Peace. All
don't
the
think
parties
so.
should have an Action for Peace. And I was so
Yeah.
pleased to find out that and I didn't realise how long the Labour Party conference went on for, because otherwise I would have stayed for the whole conference. I didn't know it lasted all that time. Otherwise I would have stayed there, but I didn't. When I went, I thought it ended on Monday, so I left on Monday, and I wasn't prepared that it actually was longer than it was there for. I would be happy
I
to
think-
go.
Okay, let's, Ravi, you come in, Ravi. Ravi,
I was going to say, just
I think
to
it's really
respond to
important.
Lilius about the money being there and spending it. For me, so for my point is more fundamental than that. It's about the objective of having a stand. Before you even spend money, it's a question of why are we going to have a stand? What purpose does it achieve? And that's the more important bit, because you can do fringe events without having to have a stall. You can set up a fringe event. You could do it online. Most of them will be online moving forward now, but it's the objective of what you're trying to achieve. And if having a stall at any political party conference doesn't, achieve that objective, then you've got to question why you're doing what you're doing. So that's my understanding. You'd only do something if you're going to get something out of it.
okay.
And if you haven't been achieving what you wanted to get out of it, then you reassess it, stop it even.
Well,
well, exactly my point.
okay.
Could I just make a comment, please?
Exactly my point.
Okay,
I do
Brian,
think,
Brian, yes.
I do think that in view of the fact that our limited financial resources are being steadily depleted, because when we had the last EC, we had 18,800. We're now down to 16,000 something. And of course, it's a huge expense to produce the magazine and to send it out, even though we've now reduced the number of people receiving their magazine to a more realistic number. I will be very anxious if we spend this kind of money in the hope it'll somehow have some kind of influence. I noted, of course, that we were active with regard to the AUKUS treaty, but the vote at the Labour Party conference didn't change the official Labour Party policy. The trouble is the centres of power in the Labour Party often don't take any notice what the conference says. So you wonder, what's the point of the conference? Seriously, I would strongly advise against spending this money this year on the conference.
Okay, I think the
Yeah.
overall impression I get that more people are against and less people are for. So for the time being, the decision is not to go to the Labour Party. And we can review it in next meeting,
Yes.
able to raise enough cash.
Yeah. One point that is in my memo, but I haven't mentioned, is that there are still negotiations going on in the Labour Party as to the actual format, and they're not actually open for booking as yet. Normally, they're open for booking more or less as soon as the previous one finishes. But because of the question marks about the layout and the division between the two buildings, which I've mentioned being a big disadvantage to the exhibition, the exhibition organizer has told me that they're trying to renegotiate that, and on the Labour Party website, where you look on annual conference, it says this page will be updated shortly or something to that effect, and that at the moment they're not giving any more detail. So there is certainly some time anyway to make a decision. I would like to say that I want Labour Action for Peace to be successful as well as Uniting for Peace, and I'm still going to go back to the Colin Bastin, the chair, and the secretary, Helen, and see if we can do anything to revive LAP and get more money. And if we can do that, that will make a significant difference to the situation. But it's absolutely true. I think that Uniting for Peace can certainly not afford to pay for the whole of the expenses of the Labour Party conference this year in the light of present financial circumstances. I regret that. But slightly changing the subject slightly, the vote on the AUKUS, the vote on the AUKUS in the actual conference, to be absolutely honest about that and clear, that was mainly down to Labour CND rather than to ourselves, despite our petition and the few hundred signatures we got on that. That was actually too late to have had any effect. It was good to do it in itself, but I don't think we can claim any credit for the actual vote. So that was very much down to Labour CND and the National CND.
Okay, thanks. So it's decided we are not going till if we are, however, if Frank is going to try, and if he is able to raise some funds, then United for Peace will chip in some money. So that is the feeling I feel we have discussed. So about future events, there are two more things we need to discuss. Theme of the annual conference, which is around October, November, December, and the theme and the time we can think later. So if people have any thoughts, let's discuss them. If not, we could leave this item agenda for the next meeting. Yeah. Okay. So the next item we will take up, we will put it the annual conference in next meeting's agenda. So the next item we take up is Green Party Conference, which is going to be in October in Harrogate. Now, the amount of Green Party Conference is considerably less, which is around £400. But again, the amount of people is not like Labour Party conference, 10,000 people are attending. Maximum 1,000, 1,500 people will ever attend Green Party. So we do questionnaire, we have an exhibition stand, and we meet previous leaders, new leaders, and also we sell a few books and we give a lot of literature, our newsletters, and meet people and try to spread the word of non-violence, culture of peace, etc. So that's what happens there, and that's what happens in the Labour Party. It's very, very hard to measure the impact of being there. Like impact of us being there at the Labour Party conference or at the Green Party. The only thing is it's a lot less to spend than the party. So I will go with whatever people think we should do.
Sorry, Vijay, was that a question? Were you asking
Yeah,
what
we
we think
asked
we should?
all the participants that the Green Party expenditure is this year it's in Harrogate. It's £400 is the stand, and of course we are not having any event like the one we had last year at the Birmingham event.
Yeah.
And
And my personal view is all stands at political parties should either be stopped or reviewed until we establish what the objective is,
yeah,
regardless of the cost.
okay, thank you. Any other comments, or we can
Yeah. I would like to say that the Green Party is the only political party that does not support nuclear weapons. And I think that, you know, I love Jeremy Corbyn, and I'm thrilled that Fabian Hamilton is the Shadow Minister for Peace. But whilst I was at the Labour Party conference, and you remember, Vijay, we went to see them in that little chapel, and they were talking about stuff in the party, and they felt that Fabian Hamilton was not being supported properly. You know, that the Labour Party was they had this Shadow Minister for Peace, but they were kind of sticking him in a corner and then ignoring him. And I mean, for me, Jeremy Corbyn is the man of peace. You know, I mean, he really is the man of peace. And this is another reason why I'd like to go to Labour Party conference, because I want to support Jeremy Corbyn. And, you know, the conversation with the Labour Party about this nuclear weapons has got to be taken seriously. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Apart from anything else, it's illegal, because the British government are saying, okay, we didn't sign up for the total abolition of nuclear weapons treaty, therefore we can ignore it. But they did sign up for the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons, so they shouldn't be expanding their nuclear arsenal, but they are doing that, and it's illegal. And the Labour Party the Labour Party should be standing up to that and saying that you know, this is the hypocrisy of the Conservative Party. And I'm disgusted that they're not doing anything, and then that they're not supporting Jeremy Corbyn. We need welfare, not warfare. And what, you know, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And okay, you know, the Green Party in their little way are not supporting nuclear weapons, but on the other hand, they are saying, oh, we are not pacifists. We think it's okay to kill people. So I'm lost now politically. I am totally lost. You know, I don't know which party I'm supposed to be with anymore. I'm no longer the co-chair of the Southeast region, by the way, of the Green Party. I am just now a humble foot soldier, and I'm doing my little bit around here because of the government's thing about they think they can boost the economy by road building all over the place, and they don't seem to realize that we are in a climate emergency. More roads equals more cars equals more pollution, and yet they're still building all these roads all over the place. And down here in around this area, that is a big issue. So
Okay.
I am supporting my local party in fighting road building. But as for peace, you know, that's a dirty word around here because everybody around here is military. We have a massive Armed Forces Day in Littlehampton that expands every year. I'm standing here by myself, fighting against everything.
Thank you.
So
Anybody got a
Uh,
comment about
uh,
Green Party?
Lilias,
yes, fine.
join the club.
Yeah. Well, this is why we have an organization called Uniting for Peace, where like-minded people can get together. And in theory, if we get together, if we unite, we are a stronger force. And I think that, you know, the Labour Party is a good place to talk about these issues because they have they're a big power. And, you know, they should be standing up against the Conservative government against this nuclear issue. But why are the Labour Party supporting nuclear issues? Why are the Labour Party doing that? What's going on?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, understand. Okay, we were.
I could take a long time in responding to that, and going right back into the history of the Labour Party, going back to my very first activities in the 1940s. So I think we'll leave it for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the first few pages of VJ's book explain it very well about the male psyche as well. But anyway, we'll leave that as well. Let's get on with
Okay.
something else.
I tell you.
Yeah, can I just one point to Lilias? I noticed you used a military metaphor, military terminology, foot soldier. That indicates the fact that dripped off your lips, indicates the depth of the military mind, even to someone like yourself.
Yeah.
Well, my great-grandfather was a colonel in the army. My mother was in the army during the war.
I don't mean, no,
Her
I'm
parents
just saying
were, you know, we've all got military backgrounds.
yeah, but I'm saying that you use the term foot soldier.
Yeah, my mum used to say it quite often as well.
Not
Okay.
not
Okay.
not grassroots activist, which
Let's
would be
get back to
Get on.
what we were
Get
discussing.
on.
So, Brian, while you were away, we were discussing Green Party conference, saying that although the money for having a stand is £400, but Labour Party attracts around 10,000 attendees, and the Green Party 1,000, maximum 1,500. So we still, and Ravi came back and said, we need to first agree to an objective why we are going there. So,
Well, could I just say that we've only been at the Green Party conference for a few years and therefore have not really built up any kind of impact on that party. I would have thought with the cost being so low, we could at least go to the Green Party conference.
yeah, okay. What do the other members think? Can we go to the Green Party conference? As Brian is saying, the cost is so low.
But as Ravi says, what is the objective in doing so? What influence does the whatever one thinks about the policies, and there are some questions about some aspects of the Green Party policies, while there are others that we would totally agree with. The question is, what power does the Green Party itself have to get its policies implemented, whether we agree with them or not, and how can we influence the Green Party to change those policies we don't agree with?
I agree.
I don't think there are any Green Party policies that you could disagree with, actually.
As Ravi says, until we've answered the question of what objective do we have in going there, the money is a secondary consideration.
I think it'd be to build up our visibility with that constituency. The Labour Party should know by now Uniting for Peace and before the WDC existed, and our peace organizations. We've been there so many times, they can't not know about us. We've still, I think, still to establish our presence among the Green constituency, and therefore for that reason and the low cost, I think we should go.
Okay, let's have a vote on it. How many people to go for the Green Party? Me, Brian, Lilius, we are all for yes. Anybody for yes?
Oh,
And but so three for.
I'm neutral on this.
Frank is neutral, so then we are left with a draw, 3 and 3. Oh, no.
Okay, I'm for it.
Yeah.
Okay, Bernie's for it.
Bernie's
Yeah.
for it.
So, okay, we are going to Green Party. That's the decision we have made.
Right,
Okay.
and that's in.
Okay.
When is it? When is it?
Harrogate being a more pleasant place than
Harrogate.
Liverpool.
In October. Okay, Brian.
October. Okay.
You
Don't
you-
throw money away, that's all. Don't be throwing money away.
The more people come in, you can help us spread the word of peace. Yeah. And give some literature. The good thing is coffee is free. So you can drink as much coffee you like. Okay.
Right.
Now, next item, we'll take up Brian Cooper's reflection paper, in which he wrote that that this is what we do and where we go from here. Brian, could you just say a few words about your paper?
Yes, well, Vijay asked me to do a reflection paper because it's over 10 years since Uniting for Peace was established following the union of the two organizations. And it seems that our program is now sort of settled down, as it were, to these at least 2 and usually 3 conferences a year in normal times. The peace stalls at whichever party we want to go to, and also more recently events held with other organizations. Over the years also, I myself and other friends have held interfaith peace events in Edinburgh and Glasgow, though that program has been suspended because of COVID. I'm still discussing with friends here whether we can re-establish it and when, but there are questions of the health of the people involved. Anyway, so given the fact that there's so few of us, I think it's remarkable that we've done so much as we have. And this is primarily due to the tireless efforts of Vijay, who I think needs to be not only congratulated, but also that does need physical help, particularly with the question of getting out the magazine. I think those of you who are in the London area and have ready access to Cavell Street really ought to ask yourself, can I not go and help him get the magazine out twice a year? Because it's a huge, huge job. I myself send out about 80 magazines twice a year, and that's quite enough. And getting out 600 or 700 is a huge job. I think other members ought to think about that. I think we need, I think, to reappraise our endeavors. Is the program that we've got the best use of our time and resources? Are there other things we can do if we're not doing the Labour Party conference or spending that money? What else might we be able to do? And I think the idea of joint events with other organizations is extremely worthwhile. The Ravi has done that in Birmingham with the UNAR. They've also in the past been joint events with Peace Jam and other bodies. I think going down that road ought to be profitable. And it also expresses our title of Uniting for Peace, because originally we hoped that other organizations would join us, and this so far has not been the case. There's also the question of parliamentary contacts. In the days of Peter Archer and Frank Judd, we had a kind of entree into Parliament, and they were able to raise our sort of issues on the floor of the House. Fabian Hamilton has become a good friend, but we need to look to other members of parliament who could well be interested in peace issues. I wonder we need to somehow make a list, potential list of political contacts. And it seems to me that I find this very difficult because one could always look to the Labour Party to have a range of people on the left, or not so much on the left, but certainly there used to be key figures of the Labour Party who would be pro-peace figures. They seem to be absent at the moment, perhaps because of the kind of failure of the Corbyn project. But we need to rebuild this. I don't know if we can look beyond the Labour Party, other parties too. Obviously, there was a ready supporter in Caroline Lucas. I think in some way, I say this with hesitation, as I loathe the SNP, but at least the SNP are against nuclear weapons. Or at least they say they're against them big in Scotland. There's a big question here. I've several times argued with my peace friends in Scotland, just moving them south of the border is a disarmament, and they seem to think that Scotland can be safe once they're moved south of the border, an absurd idea. But I think the range of political contacts needs to be widened. At the same time, I think we need to inform those who are not necessarily our supporters of what we are doing. Now, I did suggest to Vijay some time back that we should send the magazine with a short covering letter to the members of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, perhaps also the Defence Select Committee. I don't know if that is being done. Vijay has similar things to do anyway. Perhaps someone else could do that. There's only about, I think, 15 members on these committees. I think we do need to do that if we can. Now, sometimes I feel we might be treading water when looking at the kind of issues that we discuss in our conferences, not the ones we have in mind now, but perhaps we've talked about global governance quite enough for a while. Particularly, I think, because we failed to face up to the fact that this phrase, the international community, doesn't mean what it used to mean. There are now severe divisions in the world, and I think it's very difficult to speak of the international community. And I think also what is a de facto alliance of Russia and China is going to change the way the world operates. Now, so I think we need to look at other kind of peace issues. And I mentioned that Africa is an area which has frequent conflicts. And we've never done a session on Africa. There are plenty of experts on Africa. We might consider that as a possible topic. But there's also, coming back, I think, to the question of Russia, China, Ukraine, the West, I think, has declared a Cold War against Russia and China. Most of our politicians are extremely ignorant of Russia, particularly Liz Truss, who is carrying on absurdly in Moscow at the moment. And it's really quite shameful, the lack of understanding of Russia's historic fear of invasion from the West. It's happened many times in Russian history and has caused huge sacrifice and huge destruction and loss of life. And looking back at the last 20 plus years, it seems to me that you can sum it up as that Gorbachev was betrayed by the West, Yeltsin was manipulated by the West, and Putin is standing up to the West. The West doesn't like this. And of course, Putin's view of the world, whether you like it or not, is that there should not be internal interference in internal affairs of other states, which you might be curious in view about Ukraine, because Ukraine has a very, very historical position with regard to Russia. I mean, much of historically it's been integral part of Russia, but that to one side. But I think we need to address these issues of the new Cold War. Have a realistic appraisal. Is there a threat from China? Why are we provoking China by the new alliance and also by sending ships off its coast? If you're facing a dragon, you shouldn't poke it. If you're facing a large bear, you shouldn't poke it. So I think it is very hard to assess the effectiveness of what we do, because essentially we are an information sharing and awareness building organization. I think we could try and have some more effect on the political process directly. Finally, I come to the question of the lack of office holders. When I get magazines of other peace organizations, they all have lists of office holders. And I wonder how they managed to do that. Some of them are quite small organizations and in a way far less active than us. They seem to have lots of office holders. And, you know, I think it's grossly unfair to Vijay, for example, that he has to be the treasurer, because we do have a named treasurer, but he's only able to be active really around the time of the AGM. And Vijay is the de facto treasurer for most of the year. And this is too much of a burden on him. So we need to have that one sorted out if possible. And also the membership secretary. Now, I just keep a note of all the Scotland members and contacts and the clergy and church related ones, down to about in the 70 or 80 now with the contacts. And I regularly contact them, but it's a rather time consuming affair. Chase them up for subscriptions and so on. But we need someone at the centre who will take this on and do it, with either computer or card index or whatever. I just hope that these, I've not kind of given anything particularly new, you know most of this anyway, but it's a question of whether we can reappraise where we are, where we're going, and perhaps go forward in a few other directions. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to open the floor for comments, but let me say that we should, with a very small, skilled, dedicated peace activists, we are doing a wonderful job. And as Brian, you said, information sharing and telling people about peace issues,
Yes,
including, because our magazine goes to parliamentarians
good.
and to opinion formers, to policy makers, all these people receive, which is a list of 700 people. They receive it, and maybe we don't come to know. Maybe somebody might have just changed their mind and say, these people I've read this and they make sense. And he or she has gone and done something, but did not tell us what he or she did. And I'm sincerely hope we are a vehicle for that. And that we are spreading word of peace and also information sharing among, as I said, parliamentarians, opinion formers, policy makers, and civil society. Because our events have been in the past well attended by civil society. The only thing happened to me after reading your paper, which you sent, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago?
No, just end of December, I think.
December, is
Yeah, end of-
I took a decision that to start a Uniting for Peace campaign along with Gamit. And that was a decision I took after reading your paper. Because I
Aha.
said, what is missing? Because if you go in the last 10 years, we had a few campaigns. One was 4D for world peace. 4D standing for disarmament, demilitarization, development, and democracy. And that went quite well, actually, because I went to Oxford University, Cambridge University, Nottingham University, and many, many other places I got invited, and I talked about that campaign. Then we had a campaign, Europe
Could
for
I just say one comment on that? You know, you got my wife Kazuko to translate it into Japanese, and we sent it quite widely to Peace Order, and I still get regular magazines and letters and things, magazines from Japan as a result of that. So I think that did have a kind of wider impact, the 4D campaign.
Thanks, Brian. And then we had, before Brexit, I wrote a book peace beyond borders. That was because I am a Remainer. So I'm not a Brexiteer. So, and then I went all over the country, again to Oxford University, Cambridge, and even Edinburgh. I came Edinburgh and everywhere, and trying to influence people that they are better off in Europe, because Europe was at war with each other, European countries, for thousands of years. 30-year war, 100-year wars, First World War, Second World War. So why are we getting out of Europe? Because we have got relative peace for the last 75 years. So, and that was my motto, writing the book and going all over the country. Even in Europe I went, some places. So I realized that we never had a campaign after 2016, when I read your paper. So I immediately, I'm on the board of GAMIP, Global Alliance for Ministries and Infrastructure for Peace. And I suggested that we open up a European chapter for them, because they have got a Latin America and Caribbean chapter. They have got a African chapter. So, and they loved the idea. And as you are aware, we had our first meeting on 26th of January, which was attended by all the committee members here. And that was the direct result of reading your paper, that I said, what's missing is we never had a campaign for so long. So let me start this campaign this year. But let's not just deject ourselves and be depressed. We are a very, very small team with dedicated peace activists working for 50 years, like Frank has been working for over 60 years in the peace movement. And with our limited resources, we are doing a great job.
Absolutely.
We need to do it more better. Like, for example, Brian, you said about the newsletters. Last 2 weeks, even after I finish the meeting today, I'm going to go and stuff the newsletter to be sent. Out of the 700, I've sent about 400. 300,
Yes.
I have to stuff the envelope and post them. So I'm still on it while we speak. Next, I could be up to middle of next week, still sending newsletters. As I said, we are a small team, but a very dedicated team. So I'm just going to stop now and give the floor to other members to give their comments, how we can go and do a better job with less resources and a very small but dedicated team. Who's going to take the floor?
Me, I'd like to, if that's okay, VJ.
Barney, come.
I've been quite patient sitting here listening to a lot of what you said, and a lot of it makes a lot of sense. What Lilias was saying, I'm completely with her. What Frank was saying, and Ravi as well, and Brian. I've read your reflections paper, Brian, and I think it's great. I got the letter from Frank by email, which I read carefully, and I understand those issues. I'd just like to speak about two things here. One is the importance. Look, we are now, there's nothing, I'm not against newsletters and posting stuff out, keeping the post office in work, fine. We are in the digital age. We've got to wake up to this. We are now in the digital age. Now we need to be connecting with all these people digitally. So, you know, but they can receive the news. I receive the newsletter by email and by post. So that's one point I'm making. All right, we need to seriously look at the power of the digital facilities that are available to us, and we're not using them to their full effect. The second point, which I want to finish with, is about Brexit. All right. The thing is, more and more people are realizing, and the pandemic has made this even more put it even in more sharper focus, that all these agreements that were made over 40 years can't be torn up in 5 minutes, and that there are serious problems with supply chains. And I'm not going to go into a lecture on this, but I think you'll understand what I'm talking about if you watch the news internationally. That this is causing a lot of problems economically for this country, and that you know, the idea that that Brexit, Boris Johnson's idea that, you know, Brexit's done and dusted, is, well, quite honestly, I think it's quite laughable, actually. And I think people are realizing, business people, in the industry, you know, they're realizing that the problems that this ideology of Brexit has brought about. And I think it's going to, you know, Brexit is not done and dusted. It's not by a long chalk, and I don't think it ever will be, because there's who was it said it? I think Joe Berry said, I think of myself, I'll always think of myself as a European. You know, we'll always be in Europe. And I think VJ's, you know, if we read back over Peace Beyond Borders, you know, it's as true now as it was then when he wrote it, you know, so many years ago. And I think that's really important to finally, one final point. I think I don't think there is unity, you know, uniting for peace. All right, this word unity is absolutely central to any sort of victory. All right, and I don't believe there is unity in NATO. There's not. All right, it's not even a military organization, NATO. All right, it's just it's a propaganda machine. And I think as these countries, Croatia have walked out, and as I said this before at the Gamut meeting, as more countries are going to realise that you know, they're being used as sacrificial lambs, I think it's going to unravel even more this very sort of tenuous sort of fabric of NATO, which is a total irrelevance in the modern world. And I think more and more people are waking up to it. I agree, whoever it was who made the comment about Liz Truss. I think Liz Truss is, she doesn't even know her history. She was bleating on in Parliament about this and that, and it's all completely inaccurate. Like her counterpart in the State Department in Washington, a lady by the name of Jennifer Psaki, you know, people are waking up, you know, and I'll say again, it's connection via the internet. All these movements that so many movements that are actually active, and this Gamut project is a really good example of the power. I mean, it's incredible, the power of you know, all these Nigeria and Cameroon and all these countries, you know, all that we're actually together and sharing this people power. So I know this might sound, you know, a little bit sort of, you know, might sound like wishful thinking, you know, sometimes when we look at the formidable forces that we're up against, you know, of the ruling powers, but you know, people do have power. So I would like to share VJ and Brian's comments about VJ, the efforts. You know, VJ's been doing this long before I ever jumped in, and so thank you very much. I'm going to leave it there. So thank you very much for giving me the time to speak.
Thank you, Bernie. Anybody would like to jump in?
Yes, I can make a few comments. First of all, about the whole international situation and the standoff between NATO and Russia and between the United States and China. With the foundation of the United Nations in 1945, the whole concept of spheres of influence should have become obsolete. Yes, I take Brian's point about what you might describe as paranoia on the part of Russia in the light of their history. And of course, there's the old saying, even though you're paranoid, that doesn't mean they're not out to get you. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. But that doesn't mean that doesn't make Putin a good guy. He still has enormous armaments, and remembering the origins of United for Peace, the World Disarmament Campaign as one of the two, that was literally to promote the final document of the first special session on disarmament of the United Nations in 1978. I still would have liked that. In fact, that is, according to United for Peace Constitution, that is supposed to be still one of our fundamental central aims. And then going to action for UN renewal, again, that was focused on the structure of the UN and the reasons why it was failing and so on. And it was set up, I forget exactly when, I think it was about 2000, as a more radical organization than the United Nations Association. I don't know whether Ravi might have anything to say about that, but it's the first president, who sadly died very shortly afterwards, was Erskine Childers, who had been a great UN servant as a deputy secretary general, if I remember rightly, and a promoter of many ideas for reform. And I think that those two issues are still very, very important. On the disarmament issue, there were, of course, as I've already said, there was the first special session in 1978, second special session in 1982, to which a petition of something 30-odd million signatures were presented by WDC, some 3.2 million from the UK, and the rest up to over 30 million due to Fenner Brockway's international contacts. And they rubber stamped the original document, but didn't do anything more about it. There was a third special session in 1988, which again didn't produce anything further forward. And there was supposed to be a fourth session, special session in the 1990s, but that were kept on being postponed because the United States wouldn't agree to an agenda. They thought that it was going to be much too critical of themselves, and there was justice from their point of view in believing that, but justice on our part for believing that it ought to have gone ahead. That was actually put on the kibosh, and this is where the what was the start of the failing of the peace movement, including WDC, was of course 9/11. That completely changed the whole world picture, and we've never really recovered from that. So I'm rambling a little bit, I know, but I still think that those two items, world disarmament and United Nations reform, should form a key core parts of our activity, and we need to get them back on the international agenda. And if that means criticizing Russia as well as the United States, because it is still taking an aggressive stand. And the fact that Putin has a certain valid point about the expansion of NATO doesn't in itself make him a good guy. He is everything that he's accused of being, an authoritarian and committed all sorts of internal crimes and so on, having opposition people murdered and so on. So we should still be like many of us in the Cold War, where we said neither Washington nor Moscow.
Okay.
I will just say everything Frank has said about Putin could be said about others. Could be said about others.
Oh,
I don't know if Boris has had any opposition murdered recently, but you know.
Well, I'm not, look, I'm not going to get into emotive, inflammatory language here, all right? All I'm saying, or if you listen just for 1 minute, all right? Vladimir Putin has dragged Russia out of the mud, all right? He's been elected, and he said in an interview, I've been elected to represent the interests of the Russian Federation. I've been elected to look after the interests of my people. And that's what he's doing. Now, the fact that people don't like it, the way that his regime, it's funny, isn't it? We call them regimes and we call ours governments. This is the whole language that's used. All is if we're talking about peace, if we're sitting there waving flags for peace, and we're creating more animosity, all right. Now, I respect Frank, all right. He's been around longer than I have. He's done more than I've ever done, all right. But I cannot share this view that Putin is this devil that he's made out to be. I just cannot go with that. And I don't think what we need to look. I think all world leaders need to look for the best in others rather than the worst. And until they start doing this, we're just going to have this vicious circle of animosity and I just can't go along with this. We've had in the Olympic Games in China, there's a Russian athlete who won a gold medal for skating, and she's now been accused of in a doping scandal. So from every corner, from every angle, Russia is attacked as being this awful So I'll just finish with I've just recorded a song called, the title of this song is called Let's Blame Russia. So when I've got this song finished, I'm going to send it to you to listen to. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Brian?
Brian, and then
I would really endorse what Bernie has said. I mean, I've made a point of trying to read every book about Putin that I can lay my hands on. Many of them are simply stupid propaganda, anti-Russian propaganda. There are some balanced books. And as I say, Putin inherited a corrupt mess, totally disorganized Russia at the end of Yeltsin's period. And it was in danger of falling apart because of Islamic terrorist activity. He has taken very, very tough measures, some very controversial, to re-establish Russia as a working state, which people's pensions are paid, and those in public office get their wages on time and so on, and taxes are collected, and the power of the oligarchs has been curbed, and so on and so forth. Now, the West doesn't like this because it means it has to take note of a strong Russia once again. And I would just also mention, I'd always like to end this kind of comment by saying the greatest authority on Russia and Ukraine is Professor Richard Sakwa. And he once said, if you want to get to the truth about what really is happening in Russia, what it really is the Russian standpoint, take the opposite of mainstream opinion, mainstream narratives in the British media. That, I think, sums it up.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Okay,
as far as
Let's
the,
move on, Vijay. Let's move on.
okay, as far as,
can I, I think I was,
go on, go on,
Vijay,
go
was I after Brian to speak?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I want to defend Frank because I don't think that he was trying to put Putin down. He was actually talking about world disarmament. And he just said that, let's make no mistake, that Putin is armed, okay? So that seems fair enough to me. Everybody's armed. Well, and as we all know, thanks to, well, I learned from Vijay's questionnaire at the things that the biggest arms dealers are on the Security Council of the UN. So what hope have we got of peace when they pull all the strings and they are in charge, and they're not interested in world peace because it won't be very good for business, will it? Okay, so when you look at things like that, you know, they're all armed. And and arms is what's running the economy. Okay, so you know, everybody wants, the arms dealers don't want to disarm. And if you talk to people in the street about disarmament, just average people, which I do quite frequently, they just laugh in your face. No, we have to defend our country. I mean, we're never going to be invaded anymore because we've already been invaded by the Russian oligarchs. London, nothing in London is owned by a British person. Let me tell you that, okay? Even Thames Water is owned by China. And I think it may have been sold on to somebody else now anyways. And all those buildings, all those massive buildings all over London are not British owned. They're all owned by foreign countries. So they're not going to invade us because we have nothing that anybody could possibly want. We don't need to be armed to defend our country. That's total nonsense because nobody's ever going to invade us. But if you try to talk about people about this sort of thing, they just think that it's fantasy, it's not real. We need to have a few guns and bombs to defend ourselves, you know. You can't. The forces of the ruling power, I want to talk about the formidable power of reason, which doesn't seem, you can't reason anymore. People won't listen to reason. It's not, reason is not respected. A reasoned argument, a reasoned point of view, it doesn't matter. It's what's popular. It's what's the latest, what people are backing. You know, reason doesn't even stand up anymore. So I don't know how we're, you know.
Lily,
Sorry.
Lily, just thank you. Just quickly, this won't take a second. I'm very glad. I'm very grateful to Vijay for recording this meeting, because I'm going to copy out everything everyone has said on this meeting. All right, verbatim, and I would like everyone to reflect upon it when they read it. That's all I'm going to say.
okay, thank you. I think we have covered a lot of ground. There's no more items because item number 6 was the next newsletter, which most of the people have got it. And in the next agenda, I will put in what will be going in the next newsletter. Whether it's physical or digital, we can also decide that as well. And the date of the next meeting is 14th of April. Please put it in your diary. And Burnley, if you are taking minutes, I don't know the reason. Rosemary Addington is absent, but she
Yes,
said,
yes,
yeah, can
I've
you?
noted that. Yeah,
Apologies.
I have.
You
I've
have.
done that already, DJ. Yeah, and
Thank you.
Joe Berry and
Yeah,
Anthony
Joe
Russell
Berry.
as well.
Yeah, and Anthony Russell.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And it's
yeah.
because it's only 3 or 4 minutes left. Anybody, any AOBs? I think we have had a good discussion about everything.
I've got one AOB. I've got one AOB. Well, I've got two AOBs here. They're very quick ones.
Go on.
And there's nothing to stop us going 5 minutes longer, VJ, if people want to
That's
say
okay.
things. All right.
I
Yeah.
put together.
That's all right.
Yeah, just 2 points. All right, 2 points. One is make sure you send me the video of this.
I will.
So
yeah.
I can do the.
Let's write it
I'm going to
down.
write this up. All right. I want to write this up. Secondly, the Houseman's Peace Diary I've got here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm confused. All right. Now I'm not going to. This could open up an hour's discussion. I'm not intending to do that, but I would like to be educated at some point about this Falklands business, because I'm confused. I've read this Houseman's Peace Diary, and it seems to be sort of supporting the idea that
Which number?
that we have a right to
You're going
to-
somewhere.
we have a right to
Just wanted to
the
check
British Empire still has a right to hold this colony. So that's all.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going now, Vijay. All the best, Vijay.
Okay,
all
all
the
the
best.
best, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Bye bye all. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay, the meeting is closed at,
Can we,
Oh.
if the meeting is closed, can people who still want to talk still talk, or will it be all shut down?
no, if you have got something to say, as long as it's quick, because everybody is going.
Well, I
Right.
want to talk to Bernie about,
Yeah. Carry on.
about, it's not just the Falklands, it's Gibraltar as well. Likewise, if we suggest that we gave those back to the, gave Gibraltar back to the Spaniards or the Arabs or the Moroccans or whoever it actually belongs to, I don't know, or gave the Falklands back to the Argentinians, there would be a riot, but logically, they're not, it's not like it's the Isle of Wight, is it?
That's what I was-
The Falkland Islands is a long way away from here geographically. And that was
Yeah.
the thing I wanted to say about the European thing. I'm not too sure about the European thing because some people think, the euro, some people think that was a takeover by somebody to change all the currencies, and then they'd have control over the currencies, and that's got something to do with European politics, okay? But obviously, geographically, of course we're European. So there's a difference between the geographical and the political, okay? And this is likewise with the Falklands and the Gibraltar. There's a difference between the political and the geographical. And I don't know what the solution to any of that is, but I just thought I'd mention it. And it is
Sorry,
interesting that the House.
I'm going to leave you now. I haven't had my lunch yet, so goodbye all.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
Frank.
Goodbye, Frank.
Bye.
Lovely to see
Bye-bye.
you.
I think it's time.
Carry on,
I'm going to
Lilius.
come and squat at your house
Yeah, carry on,
because
Lilius.
Bernie won't have me.
No, carry on with what you were saying, Lilius.
Well, it's, as you say, it's odd that Houseman's Peace Diary supports the idea that we have a right to hold a colony in the Falklands.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But this is, likewise, the fact that the Green Party don't actually believe in disarmament because we're not pacifists in the Green Party. So I don't know if I'm in the right party because of that. And the people, I don't want to get into it, the whole Green
Yeah, but
Party.
the Green Party are against nuclear weapons, though, aren't they?
Yes, they are. That's the one redeeming feature.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Of
the
the
Labour
Green
Party.
Party.
See, the Labour Party. I mean, the Labour Party are not against, you know, they're still happy about nuclear weapons.
Which is ridiculous because,
problem.
you know, everybody knows that we want welfare, not warfare. So why are we still spending all our money on arms dealing, nuclear weapons, etc., which is not any good for anybody? Well, there is the thing about, you know, those people who think the world is overpopulated. Well, we can get rid of a few people, but if we have a war, can't we? You know.
Okay, Barney,
So that's the other argument. Pardon?
Yes, VJ. Yeah.
yes,
PJ.
I need to ask you 2 questions.
Yes, please. Yeah.
I'm going to send you the recording, make it a YouTube video. But what happens when Joe Barry becomes the host and you are the co-host? Who will make the YouTube video? I can make it, but I need the
I could
recording of the
when
3rd March meeting.
yeah, when you make a let me make a distinction, VJ, between chairing a meeting and hosting a meeting.
No, I know.
Now,
but
it's,
I'm talking
no,
about.
no, let me finish, VJ. Let me please let me finish, VJ. All right. When you are the chair of the meeting, all right. When you give the hosting over, you're not giving any giving away anything other than the facility for the person who's hosting the meeting to record it themselves. All right. So I can record that. I don't have to be taking on any other role other than actually recording the meeting here on my computer, and then I can get straight away get working on it. All right. And I can let you have a copy of the video as well.
Okay, that's all I
So-
wanted to know. Because next time, I think we need to take a decision that we are not going to make the actual minutes like we did last time. We will just have a recording, make a YouTube video, and send it to all the participants. That's all we are-
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
what
that's
we're going to do next time.
that's okay. Then everyone can get all the information they want from it themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
But if the meeting is 2 hours long, then it's going to take you 2 hours to watch the video.
No, no,
Well, it took me
no, no.
it took Lillis, it took me 12 hours to write the Gamut report.
Yeah. So
All
we
right?
don't want.
I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying, but I did mention to VJ and to Joe that you can get this voice transcription software where you can actually, what it does, it just transcribes the whole everything everyone
know.
said.
Yeah,
Barney,
but a thing a meeting that takes 2 hours, how long is it going to take you to read that transcript even?
Yeah. Hmm.
no,
But it took me
Mm.
to read it, transcribe it took 12 hours.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
No, I don't want you to do it. I'm just going to make a YouTube and send it to everyone. My question was, if I haven't got the recording, who will send it to me?
If you haven't got the recording,
Okay. You listen.
no.
Because
What's
I'm
your-
not the host.
what's the question? What was the question,
host.
VJ?
He said if he hasn't got the recording, who's going to send it to him? Well,
I will.
obviously Bernie's going to send it.
I
to
will.
you,
I'll
then.
send it
Okay.
to you.
Okay.
I can send it to everyone.
Okay. All right then. That's great. You answered my question.
Yeah.
Okay. Now to stop today's recording, you go to the stop and pause button. Is it?
Just go stop recording.
Yeah. Stop recording. Okay.
You
Let
just
me
just
say
stop
bye bye.
recording.
All of you.
Right, yeah, I think